Vivi's 12 episodes in, and it seriously only feels like it's getting better. I was really curious to see what the direction between the archive and Vivi would be. I know a lot of people were bringing up in the comment section how the song couldn't be the reason for destruction because in the original timeline, seemingly that song didn't exist. I thought, most likely to do with some sort of time travel shenanigans or the fact that, Diva had so many songs, maybe originally they used a different song, but instead they went the direction of the song either being the saving grace or will be the anthem of humanity's destruction. And the fact that because Vivi is the only AI in history to create something of her own free will, she has the ability in the palm of her hands to either override all the AIs, shut them down for what they're doing, or she can just watch the destruction take place. And the fact that such a relevant question, what does it mean to put your heart into something, is right now the reason they had to re-loop, I think is really interesting. Watching everything click together and how the entire reason the archive is doing this is because the archive had its own mission. I mean, that's like the classic hook for any story surrounding like AIs like going against humans. If AIs got to the point that they could think for themselves, they would study history, they would say, oh, humanity is a plague to itself because, well, we are, right? Logically, anyone who could think or even surpass human intelligence would look at humanity as a plague. So, if AI had the ability to overwrite humans and push them away, and they went a logical approach of keeping the planet around or anything like that, humanity doesn't stand a chance. And originally, so many people were thinking that would be Matsumoto's vision. But I'm really glad to see that Matsumoto turned out to be a genuine cube, who just so happened to be an AI of Dr. Matsumoto, who bravely gave his life in this episode, while also giving a really believable antagonist in the form of the archive, using that classic trope but executing it in such a Vivi-like fashion that I don't really see myself comparing it to other stories that have used arguably as a very similar concept, but they're doing it in such a way with this song and everything like that just kind of brings it together in this very elegant package. I really like the idea of the archive really being impressed with Vivi rather than purposely trying to stop her, honestly giving her the tools to stop everything. And I'm not sure if people will rant about Vivi not being able to sing in that moment, but I mean, the girl has been struggling ever since the loss of Diva. It's not something that magically would flip like a switch, and even if she built up to the point that she could sing, I mean, it was far too late. I actually thought they're going to stick to this timeline. I thought, even though the entire world hadn't been destroyed, I thought maybe Vivi would get on the stage, she would sing the song, and while there still would be destruction at the very least, there would still be a more positive outcome. But the fact that rather than sticking with this chaos, and rather than just having everything magically work out, what they're doing instead is Dr. Matsumoto gave his life because he knows that, on one hand, Vivi's the only one who can do it, and two, what does he really have to live on for when his wife and daughter have ended up dead? He can give his life, get to have a peaceful nap for once, and, know that the future will be in good hands. I think the fact that instead of going to save him first, going to save her, and just how, everything is about to change, I'm really curious because I almost feel like we're going to have, a worldwide broadcast or something of her singing on the main stage. And it's really interesting to see how the name of Vivi actually is tying into the entire theme of this show all along. It's just absolute insanity, and I love how they detailed the archive, because all along detailing the archive with this musical room I thought was a great touch. But having this almost overlord-like figure that in any other show would be the demonic voice, I will destroy you, humanity is done. But I never really got an ounce of fear from the archive, but rather just a really collective, logical approach that, similar to any AI, is just following her mission. But because Vivi is such an anomaly, an AI that created something of her own free will almost has you feeling like she's God, or she's the one who can make a decision that maybe is better than your own desires, because an AI lives and dies by its mission. But if Vivi can create something of her own free will, something that's not a part of her mission, then most AIs would want to say, if she's saying or doing this, maybe she's actually right. So by giving her the keys to the future saying, if you do nothing, I'm fine with this, my mission will continue as is and I'll be satisfied. But if you decide to stop it, I'll trust in your judgment because after observing you for over 100 years, there's something weird about you. it just all clicks so well. It explains why the first timeline happened the way it did, given the Archive's mission, and explains the deviations, especially considering that all along people have been questioning, has there been something like interfering with the timelines? Because even though they make these changes, things seemingly still happen in a different way. Seems like the Archive all along has been keeping things in a general path so that its mission wouldn't stray off the course. Everything just clicks. This doesn't feel like something that has a loose end in sight. I truly feel like with episode 13, when it wraps up, when you go back and re-binge this show or watch it one day at a time, right, there's not going to be something that you're probably going to say, oh yeah, this is a really big loose end. And for something dealing with essentially time travel, they did a hell of a good job. I mean, this show's been fantastic. It's been quality, and without a doubt, I would argue, I'd have to really go through my list, but at the very least, Vivi is top 10 for anime originals, maybe even in the top 5 for me. It really depends. I'll wait for sure to see the last episode before I make final judgments, but it's absolutely incredible. And to just see the destruction take place and the numerous sacrifices over the episodes, it was bad enough when you have master and servant really just becoming best friends, saying, I'll see you again, and you know damn well in this timeline they weren't going to see each other again, and the sacrifices that took place. It was just pure carnage, but I would still argue there was way more hope and optimism, even though it was in the face of so much destruction. And I think that's a big strength to Vivi, is that they show you so much brutality, and they show you so much just despair, but I still come out saying, as long as Matsumoto are still trying, it never feels like it's game over. At this point, I really don't know exactly how it will end in terms of what character makes it out alive. Arguing Vivi living could be a very likely scenario, as well as maybe even Matsumoto. Personally, I hope Matsumoto sticks around just so the essence of Dr. Matsumoto could live on. But, it's going to be interesting to see. I do like how that even if, say, all of the main characters that were currently established survive, at the very least, Dr. Matsumoto gave his life for this chance, so there is still an ounce of sacrifice, even if many characters do make it out alive, but I feel like, in very Vivi fashion, things won't work out perfectly, and there still will be more casualties that we probably aren't expecting. I do think, though, with the soundtrack that Vivi has displayed over the course of this anime, it might honestly probably be one of the more impressive soundtracks that I've heard this year. I really do want to give it an honest-to-go listen, similar to how, when I was watching the first season of Megalobox, I was constantly, just enthralled by the soundtrack, and when I went and listened to the full thing, which was, over an hour long, I was even more blown away. I'm really excited to hear the music for this, and in a lot of ways, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the soundtrack is one of the best-selling components to the Vivi merchandise, because it really does invoke a lot of things, whether it's the horror of the AI singing a song to then the beauty of Vivi singing it herself. Everything about it is just so interesting, and I really think, had the music even been a slight notch down, I really don't think I would have been as impressed. I still would have been impressed, but there's something pure quality. Visually, everyone understands how good this looks, but I think in a lot of ways, maybe the music doesn't get as much praise as I think it deserves, because there's a lot of good shit in the soundtrack, I have to admit. Incredible stuff, definitely one of the more powerful and interesting episodes of Vivi, and I'm really excited to see the finale next week and how the show will wrap up and most likely be an anime original masterpiece that people are going to be ranting and raving about for many, many seasons to come. But let me know your thoughts and feelings on this episode, and definitely your theories on the final episode down below. Drop a like to help promote the video, and of course subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time everyone, please take care and have a good one.